This belief of always turning off the ABS came a lot of years ago. And if you've been riding on street ABS 10 or 15 years ago, you know exactly how terrifying that could be when you got off-road. But technology moves on, and we're going to find out how much. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take two different bikes out and just test the ABS. I'm going to use the pavement to establish a baseline. What I know is most of these bikes pull about a 1G stop, and I'm going to do this with street ABS, off-road ABS, and on the GS, no ABS whatsoever. That'll establish our baseline. Then I'm going to go through different surfaces and see how those different braking systems function compared to the good pavement that we have here. I did spend 11 years doing braking, high-speed braking demonstrations and research for the government, so I'm very consistent on that. So I'm not going to establish a baseline for my braking. I already know I can consistently do 1G stops. I'll be using a Bushnell. This is used for auto sports. It is not a police monitor, but it's really darn close. Every time we've compared this against a professional model, it's come out spot on. It'll be close enough for what we're doing today. And then also using a measuring stick for distances. I'm going to start off by setting up on the pavement. I'll set up my braking markers and my distance. Now Christina is holding the camera, and she'll also be holding the radar today. And she'll be comparing my speeds against my distances. We'll put that in the computer. Also, if I brake a little early or a little late, then she'll make those corrections on the actual final stopping distance. And since we're using radar, it doesn't really matter if I brake early or late. Only the distance matters. Any inaccuracies we have should be small enough and within a margin of error to certainly answer the one question that we're focused on today. Are we really better than ABS? And if we're off-road, should we be leaving the ABS on or should we be turning it off? The motorcycles I'm using today are a 2021 Truimph Tiger Rallye Pro, and I'm using the OEM tires. The Truimph comes with a set of Bridgestone Adventure A41, and we know that these have to be magnificent off-road tires because it says Adventure right on the side of the tire. These bikes only have about 600 miles on them, a little bit of off-road, so they're good tread, they're broken in well, and they're set to the factory recommended tire pressure. The other bike I'm using is a BMW 2017 Rallye. The big GS is equipped with a set of the very popular Dunlop Trailmax Missions. Tire pressure in these are set to the recommended tire pressure from Dunlop for this particular motorcycle. When I do the street ABS, I'm going to do what I call a stomp and grab. I want the computer to do all of the work. The second run, I'll control a little bit of rear slide, but the front will just be a grab. And on the ABS off, and not try to lock up the front and rear brake. I did do some experimentation on whether I could brake better with ABS assist or not, but that's an entirely other video. For this, I just want to go computer versus human, and we'll go with that. Whew, that skid's really easy. That's hard to manage on the with a mash on the front. 43 and a half. Wait, okay. 43. So now for this bike, I'm going to turn ABS off completely. So this is full manual, no electronics.
What was which?
That was road ABS, off-road ABS, off-road ABS again.
Do I have to turn it on? Great. Good die. This is such a bad idea. How do I get roped into such things?
What's the speed?
29.
Again?
41,
Okay.
42, 43, 44, 45, 46 and a half.
Yeah, coming off the edge of that and trying to get up to speed and hold it is definitely more challenging than I thought.
Well, you don't have much running either.
I don't have a lot of run-in, but it's all converted to G-force, so we're okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and set it for enduro, and we'll try that again.
And what were those two?
That was street.
Street.
Braking environment here is really challenging for ABS. If you come down here and take a look, you'll see this is all very loose, very similar to river rock or sand. And no matter what I do, it's not going to lock in, it's not going to change, the environment's not going to get better. This is really difficult for electronics. Well, the plan changed a little bit. Christina and I were intending to do up to 4 different off-road environments for the braking. We ended up only doing 2, but they are also, one was very common environment and one was a very challenging environment. We did gravel and we did a very deep river rock braking scenario. To establish the braking numbers, we did an on-road and we did the street ABS, the ABS off, and we did enduro ABS. The bikes performed, both of them performed the way we expected. Both of them performed between the 0.9 to 1G range with both a street ABS and with me doing my best stop with the ABS turned off. The enduro modes both performed below the street ABS, although they did quite well. The BMW did a 0.84. That's about 15% below, maybe a little less than 15% below what it could do with street ABS. The Truimph did, it was actually a 0.99G, and the Offroad ABS did a 0.91. These are very good numbers for ABS systems that are designed to be in the dirt. That 0.84 that the BMW did, to give you some perspective, if you've done a motorcycle safety foundation or MSF course, what they consider you if you do a 0.81 or better is they consider you a distinguished braker. So even with that back wheel sliding all the way down to a stop and that front ABS working in enduro mode, they did a good job. Now that we've established what the bikes can do on pavement, when we took them to their natural off-road environment, which is gravel or dirt road, the question is, how were they going to perform? And this was very interesting. The road ABS did much better than we would have expected a few years ago. The BMW, the road ABS came in at a 0.64 and a 0.6. So that's roughly 40% to 35% below what it could do on pavement. And the Truimph came in at a 0.58 and a 0.61. Little less performance than the BMW, but within a margin of error. That could have been the different side of the road we were testing on. It could have been the tires that we had. But again, within 40%. If you were to go back to that Motorcycle Safety Foundation or most rider courses in the US, a perfect score, a gold star, a man, you're really good as a new rider is 0.63 or better. Even in the dirt on street ABS, these bikes are doing everything that a rider is trained to do in a basic rider class. Now turn on the ABS for off-road, for the enduro mode or for the off-road, and they performed about the same. The BMW came in at a 6.4 and a 6.2 as opposed to a 6.4 and a 6. Again, within a margin of error. It was doing about the same. And I'll explain why I think that was the case. The Truimph came in at 0.59 and 0.69. So it straddled both ends of those numbers. When I was braking, the street ABS definitely felt like it was rolling farther. And the enduro and the off-road ABS felt more planted. But because I was testing the computer, I was doing a stomp and grab. I was allowing the computer to do all of the braking. The street ABS may roll more often, but both ends were still controlling the slide. When I switched to enduro mode, the front end was doing all the braking, the back end was only sliding. Had I been better at controlling that rear slide, chances are those numbers would have been better, quite a bit better. Turned off all the ABS. The numbers came out very similar, 0.62 to 0.58. Those landed right at the same numbers as the road ABS for the BMW. On the Truimph, it was a 5.4 and a 5.8. Again, landing very similar to the same numbers as the street ABS. The takeaway on this is pretty clear. If you have a modern motorcycle with street ABS, chances are it's going to work pretty well in that type of environment. Off-road may just mean off-road, not off pavement. Let's get a little silly now. The very last place that we took the bikes was into the rock pit. This is deep river rock. It's round, it's rolling around and it doesn't lock in. It's a difficult environment for rider. It's a difficult environment for the machine. Here's how they fared. The street ABS on the BMW was a 5.1 and a 4.5. The Truimph came in at a 4.4 and a 4.5. Again, very comparable. Those half G stops, those 0.44 numbers are very similar to if you were on pavement and you just locked up the rear brake and slid into a stop. The enduro mode on those bikes did much better. 0.54 and a 0.65 for the BMW, and on the Truimph it was a 0.56 and a 0.5. So definitely an improvement in the off-road modes. Turn off all the ABS. We ended up with a 6.1 and a 6.4. Those were equal to or more consistent than the off-road ABS for the BMW. This is what I do for a living, and I suspect that most riders would do much better with that enduro. Also keep in mind, I was only using front ABS and locking the rear. I wasn't trying to do my best stop. When I went to the Tiger and we went to off and the Offroad Pro, it came back to a 0.44 and a 0.45. Again, that's equal to that rear wheel skid on pavement, and those numbers were not so great. So definitely on the Truimph, the electronics did much better than when the electronics were off or when it was in street mode. The takeaway from this is ABS works. The street ABS will likely do as well as you will as a rider, and the enduro ABS or the off-road ABS, which is designed for this type of riding, performs very well and will outperform most of the riders. In my opinion, modern ABS, the idea of turning it off when you go off pavement or off-road is a myth, and it's busted. If you're interested in mud, in downhills, in a more comprehensive testing where we try to be more controlled about all the environmental changes, certainly I can look into doing that in the future. But to me, this is definitely pretty cut and dry. Thanks for watching. Make sure you leave comments or questions down at the bottom. If you're not a supporter, feel free to join me on Patreon to keep these channels going. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time, remember, attitude matters.